And this man is Lee Sterling. He joins us every week from our friends at ParamountSports.com to offer up his selections and talk a little college football. So we had a little taste last week, which happened to include UTEP. And now we get the full dose here for college football fans this week.
Yeah, it was a nice taste. Not so much for the bottom feeders in the Mountain West. I mean, you talk about problems. Wyoming threw for like 30 yards in the game. Hawaii, their defense, they couldn't stop anyone. They lined up wrong multiple times. There was one time a guy went in motion. I don't know if you saw this. 3 Hawaii defenders ran with him. So two teams got some. If you think your team has problems, you're not Hawaii or Wyoming.
That's true. That is very true. Meanwhile, as we get ready for this week's selections, I'm just curious because you don't have this game on your list, but we've got New Mexico State getting ready to play against Minnesota. And what is interesting about this one, Lee, is it's Jerry Kill going back to one of the spots that he did very well at. And I don't really think, even though he's 35-point dogs, Jerry Kill wants to show up tonight and play in a couple of hours and get embarrassed with his new team.
Oh, I think the line's too generous. I mean, I think Minnesota's good, but outside of their starting quarterback and running back, not a lot of experience at receiver. They're breaking in a lot of young guys here. And New Mexico State, I mean, you talk about a team, I mean, they should have been up big in the first half of their game, and 5 turnovers. I mean, how many times do you see a team turn the ball over 5 times, 5-0 turnover disadvantage, and only lose by 1 point against the spread? Just shows you they probably were the right side. So yep. I'll take the points here.
I'm with you on that one. All right. You ready to have some fun and kick things off here? All right, good. You've always picked good games for us. I'm excited about this. So, Adrian, we get to enjoy Lee from Paramount Sports. And how about we start with one of his featured games, Utah and Florida. Despite the Utes going on the road to Gainesville, they're still 2.5-point favorites here over the Gators.
Yeah, and what we're going to see with this Florida team, it's going to take them a little while to reload. They have a quarterback in Anthony Richardson. I mean, this guy, he's a gazelle, 6'5". He can run like the wind. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the country. He could go in the draft, be a first-round draft pick. But outside of him and a couple defensive backs, cupboard's bare. Now, they're recruiting really well. I think Billy Napier and his – I don't know if you heard – did you see the picture of their coaching staff, their team photo?
No, I haven't seen that one yet. What's going on?
They've got like as many coaches as they do players. I've never seen anything like this. They're visiting high schools, different high schools, seems like every other day. They should just put the coaches there and let them start coaching. But the problem here is they just don't have the talent. Cam Rising for Utah really came on after Brewer didn't work out, had 20 touchdowns, also 499 yards running. Tavian Thomas, you talk about a kid under the radar, hit 21 touchdowns from a running back last year, not even listed in the Heisman odds that I saw. So practicing also at elevation, almost a mile high, which will help them. And it's been in the high 80s, low 90s almost the entire month of August here. So that playing in the swamp and the heat there could be negated unless Anthony Richardson probably throws for 300 yards and runs for close to 100. I don't see it. I like the running Utes here, 31-23.
Let's get to game 2. Ohio State and Notre Dame. Considering Ohio State is at home, but these are 2 top 5 teams, at least in the preseason polls, I didn't realize we would see a 17-point spread. Is Notre Dame really 2.5 touchdowns worse than Ohio State right now?
Well, a lot of positive things from Marcus Freeman. I think he's the right fit for them, and I think he's going to do a good job recruiting. He's going to be bringing in a really good recruiting class next year, but they're not there yet. They've had trouble matching up against the elite teams. I mean, look at the last decade. Now they got to face a team. Ohio State might have the best quarterback in the country. C.J. Stroud might have the best receiver, might have 2 of the top 15 running backs. And Then Jim Knowles, their new defensive coordinator, comes over from Oklahoma State. Here's a guy, what was his last game? Against Notre Dame. Gets to face the same team again. So I think that's a great angle here. I just don't think they can stop the Ohio State offense. They just don't match up. They don't have the athletes yet here. I think this is a woodshed game here. Ohio State 48-20.
Lee, when it comes to trying to pick in non-conference matchups, how do you actually go about ranking, different leagues like the SEC, the Big Ten? Do you play any kind of mind into those kinds of things when you're picking these games?
Well, what I do is I look at my power ratings, and by watching the spring games, watching 113 spring games, I think I watched, and watching at least 3 games from the previous year and grading players, I think you get a really good feel for what a team's about. Like New Mexico State, do you expect them? Well, they're known for late hits and turning the ball over, but you don't expect a 5-0 turnover advantage.
Yeah.
You're able to gauge how many yards most teams can probably gain in a game, and as long as you don't see crazy stuff, you're usually going to be on the right side more than a lot. But I just think Ohio State is just right now, them and Alabama, different level than everyone else. Now, the playing field might get leveled out in the next couple of years with USC, with NIL money, the new coaching staff, Miami, Georgia's going to always be up there, a couple other teams. So I think in the next couple of years, we might see 7 or 8 teams at the top. But right now, it's a 2-horse race.
Lee Sterling with us at ParamountSports.com as we continue here on Sports Talk for our weekly segment. Georgia, 17.5-point favorites at home against Oregon. Another very, very large spread. If there's one thing we're going to note for all these games, except for the Utah-Florida game, all of them are 2 to 3 touchdown spreads between the two teams.
So 2 storylines here, I think. 2 biggest ones are Dan Lanning returns. He coached there for 3 years as defensive coordinator. He knows their personnel inside and out. And I just think that familiarity here can't be ignored. I think it's worth 4, 5, 6 points. So are you telling me the line would be 22, 23? I don't know. Also, Georgia, the losses on defense, 8 out of 11 starters on what might be the best defense we've seen in college football the last 10 or 12 years. So those 2 things makes me, and I watched the spring game, I think Georgia's going to have a really good offense. They're going to have to outscore people this year. And I don't think their defense, I don't think they can reload in 1 year. Maybe Alabama can, but not Georgia. And Oregon has 8 starters returning on offense, all 5 offensive linemen. And these 5 offensive linemen went into Ohio State and won. So I think it's a great situation here for Oregon. Bo Nix, who played for 15 years at Auburn, should be able to do a nice job. And here's a guy I'd look for also, Chase Cota, wide receiver, number 23, comes over from Oregon. He could play a significant part in this game. I say grab all the points you can. I like Georgia, 31-21.
Continuing right now with another team from Conference USA, Louisiana Tech. They get to play Missouri this week.
Yeah.
Mizzou right now has one of the best receivers in the country out of high school in Luther Burden. I'm sure you follow him. Meanwhile, they're 19.5-point favorites against the Bulldogs.
Luther Burden reminds me of Deebo Samuel. Big, strong, fast. He's like a man amongst boys. Don't be surprised. I know he wanted to stay home. He's from East St. Louis, but don't be surprised if he transfers to like an Alabama or an Ohio State next year. You heard it here first. Now they're playing Louisiana Tech, and Louisiana Tech, I just think their defense is really bad. They gave up 34 more points in 9 games last year. Just think that Missouri's going to be a team that can score against average to poor teams. Against the top teams, they're going to have trouble scoring 2 touchdowns. So with Burden, also like Dominic Lovett, number 7, and then look for Mookie Cooper, number 5, Ohio State transfer. They're going to throw these short passes, and those 3 guys are going to have, I think, a lot of success here. Sometimes you got to lay it if you want to play it. Starts in 45 minutes. Missouri big, 45-21 over La Tech.
Final game of our 5, Oklahoma and the Miners. All right, you saved the best for last. Now, I've seen this line anywhere from 30 to where we're going to play it. We'll play it at 31.5, where it's also been. Sooners debuting with Brent Venables. They've got Dylan Gabriel, the former Central Florida quarterback, as their new quarterback. But here's what's interesting to me about this game, Lee. I'm sure you're going to talk about this. Oklahoma, about 68% of their offense and 60% of their defense are gone from last year. So we're talking about really a new look Sooners team going up against the Miners here on Saturday.
Yeah, their new offensive coordinator, Jeff Levy, they're going to run a little more cutting edge stuff here. You'll see some different stuff, but they get off a lot of plays quickly, which if you get a couple more possessions in a game, gives you a chance to cover a big spread here. He coached Dylan Gabriel when Dylan Gabriel was a freshman, where he did his best work. So I think those two guys teaming up are going to be tough to stop here. I think the Oklahoma defense is not good at all, but I just don't know if UTEP can score enough here. Now, you got a couple guys that showed well at receiver, Smith and also Flores, I think are going to be weapons as we move forward here. But Gavin Harris, he's going to have to have a big game here. They want to have a chance here. And OU, I think they want to make a statement. So I like OU here, 56-14.
When it comes to coaches making their first game debut, is there anything to how they perform in their first game against the spread?
Well, if it was a big game, it might be something you might want to go against. But, I watched the spring game. It looked like Gabriel and Levy, the offensive coordinator, were on the same page. So getting the signals in, I don't think is going to be a real problem here. Maybe down the road in the next couple of weeks, maybe, but I don't think, he's not going to have to make a big decision probably in this game here. So it could stay close for a half, and then just the depth that they have, they're just so deep at running back and receiver, just probably too much for the Miners.
Let's talk about your game of the week and what you've got up right now at ParamountSports.com, especially coming off of last week, a good week last week. And now you're really going to roll in with the full slate of college games and NFL starting up a week from tomorrow.
Yeah, how about this game? I mean, Oregon State against Boise State. Oregon State's favored by 3, and they're giving them 3 only because they're at home. This should be, they think it's almost a pick 'em game. So you want to get this winner. I have a real strong opinion on this game. Just call this number 800-400-9741. Get my strongest play of the week. Oregon State and Boise State, 800-400-9741. Like I said, we're off to a 14-4 start to the season. Started with the first preseason game, the Hall of Fame game, and it's worked its way through week 0. So we're seeing things really on a high level. And you want to come on board, just check out all the specials. Just go to the website under Purchase Picks on the homepage, ParamountSports.com.
Good job as always, Lee. Appreciate it. We'll look forward to having you back next week.
Thanks, guys. Take care.